county has a lot of challenges at the moment. We're in danger of losing our identity and our mountain heritage and culture. I think the best way that we can preserve what's here is, oddly enough, jobs. We need local jobs so our local folks can stay here and raise their children and build a career. That won't be easy, but it can be done.
Easily, we're at a county of 55,000 people now. It's really growing. We all know that. And with growth comes problems with the school needing help. Money is probably the number one problem, how to pay for things. You have the sheriff's department is growing and needs more deputies, and needs more materials and tools to work with. The schools, certainly we have a couple schools that need to be replaced in the next few years. All the schools have a lot of capital needs. Every single department, when you have up to 55,000 people now in the county, we're still operating with the same number of county employees that we had when I first went on in 2002. We've done very well with that. We're around 273 to 275 employees with all that growth. So we've done a good job of managing, but you've got to provide money to continue all these good services that we provide. So we look ahead. We have a lot of meetings with a lot of different entities in this county, and have 10-year plans, 5-year plans, looking ahead, 15-year plans. So you've got to prepare that one.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the Chamber for having us here tonight. I think it's a great opportunity for us to be able to stand. I think one of the biggest challenges that Watauga County faces is economic development. I see kids graduate from Watauga High and ASU, and they have to leave the mountain to get a good job that can help pay their bills and be able to live up here in Watauga County. It would be nice that once they graduated from one of those institutions, whether it's Caldwell or ASU, that they could have a job that could live here and have a vested interest in the county. The way I think that we could improve that is just get the jobs here, whether that's offering incentives for the small businesses or larger businesses to come here so that we can offer jobs for those students.
Mr. Attorney? Well, one of the biggest problems that we're facing in all of counties and we're facing is the revenue shortfalls that we're faced with because of the legislature. There's not a whole lot we can do about that other than learn how to expand our tax base. One of the things that we have to do is start being smarter about the types of jobs that we're going after, the types of economic development that we can do here. Good paying tech jobs, that's something that we can do. We have great infrastructure. We need to leverage the good things that we have going on in the county and develop a better, bigger tax base.
Mr. Wells? Well, I'll agree with Larry. To take that a little further, I think one thing that the county is now trying to dig out of is the recession that we've seen over the last few years here in Watauga County. And what that brought upon us, you saw cuts to education from the state. You saw deferred maintenance on county buildings, school buildings. You saw some cutbacks to law enforcement and public safety. I think one of the biggest challenges is trying to figure out how to restore a lot of those services and offerings to an area that respects and really treasures our school system, that respects and honors our public safety, our law enforcement. And once you start bringing those entities back into where they need to be before the recession, you'll start seeing good jobs coming back here too.
Mr. Gates?
I think the revenue shortage is a big problem for our county. I think we have to increase the tax base, but we have to increase the tax base by growing smart economically and also culturally. You have to work together. We have a lot of tools in place that we could use. We have the county, We have all municipalities, we have Appalachian State University and Appalachian Regional Healthcare System that offers education, it offers jobs, and I think we need to sit down as a community and decide the directions that we want to head and bring some professional jobs. We have great educated people here. We have all the tools in place. We live in the most beautiful place in the world. People want to come here to live, and I think we've got to do this. We've got to grow jobs, and we also have to do it in a manner that we also treasure our small farmers, we treasure our heritage, and we need to move forward, but we can't move forward without remembering where we came from.
All right, since the question has been raised about revenue shortage, and earlier in our discussion with the school board candidates, the need for capital improvement in the schools, and it's been brought up in this, do you favor a bond referendum to improve our schools? I'll start with Mr. West.
Yes, we've talked about this many times. I think we're going to have a bond referendum. We're meeting with Scott, Elliott, and the school board over and over again. We're looking at all the different schools that need help. The last bond referendum was in the early 90s, and that did very well for a lot of schools, building Cove Creek School and put some additions on some other schools. But we've got schools that are 60 and have additions that are 60 and 70 years old. And with technology, it's almost impossible to fit that in. So yes, I think we'll be looking in the next 2 or 3 years at putting that together, what price tag, what schools need what, and again, a lot of meetings with the school board to go over that and pull that over. But yes, I think we are going to need it. And let the citizens vote on it, absolutely.
Ms. Schuvis.
Yes, I also agree that we need a bond referendum for the schools. We have some schools that are definitely deteriorating, and I think with the great schools that we have up here, we do need to keep those intact with the infrastructure. We've got a wonderful high school that's LEED certified, and I think it's only fair that we follow suit in those other schools and bring those up to par to support our teachers and the students that are attending them in the great facilities.
Mr. Turnbull.
I think it's critical that we don't mull it over, and we do need a bond referendum. We need to do it as quickly as we can do it, because right now, interest rates are low, that will only go up. Lack of planning has gotten us into the position that we have very old schools. And the other thing to keep in mind, we also have to compete to bring and keep good teachers here. We're competing with the rest of the state, so it's critical for us to have the best schools available, not just for our children, but folks that work there, so we can keep them here and go out and bring in good quality teachers. Thanks.
Mr. Webb.
Well, you know, a lot of people don't realize the average age of our elementary schools in Watauga County is 54 years old. We have 2 schools that are over 70 years old, 3 schools that are over 60. When you talk about a bond referendum, it's in our future, and I would definitely support that. But we also need to push some of our folks at the state to restore some of the funding from the education lottery that has, for some reason, started out as the education lottery, but now has become almost an extra savings account for the state to pad their budget. So it's not just the counties, it's you know, a lot of things have been pushed to the counties and the school systems, and Dr. Ellie could probably give you a full list of those. But it's not just the county going for a bond referendum, which I would support, but it's also working with our state partners to return some of the funding back to the counties where it's needed.
Mr. Yates.
There is a need for schools. Like you said, I attended Valley Christian School many years ago, and it's been flooded. There's old schools in the county. There's things we need to accomplish, but we can't jump the gun and accomplish them quickly without some planning. We need to be able to bring a bond referendum, which I would support, to build schools for our children. Our children deserve the best. And we have the best school system and the best teachers in the state and the best superintendent. Now, I'll say that while he's sitting there. He does a great job, and he's already in less than a year and a half shown great leadership with the commissioners. We get along, we talk, but we have to have a plan to present to you guys. We have to be fiscally responsible to let you know that we've looked at this and planned through it and know where we're going and where we're spending the money and how we're spending the money. You can't just go build a school, you've got to have some property to build it on. So we have had lack of planning for years back, decades back, and we need to do better, and we need to get on it, and we need to start now.
Ms. Lance?
Well, my question is sort of, these schools have been aging for quite a while. Why are we just talking about planning? Yeah, you have to put your money in your school system. That's a no-brainer. And I am informed that a number of them do need addressing. So I don't know why we're waiting to plan again or yet. Looks like that ought to have already been in place. Yes, I do think a bond for Brooklyn.
All right, Ms. Sharp, you get this next question to lead off. Well, we talk about the schools that we need, but we got one that's sitting there for 10 years empty. What should be done about the old Watauga High School property?
I think we should work with the town and with the current commissioners, and that we should reduce the restrictions that we put on that land and allow someone to come in and give a reasonable offer so that we can sell it. We need to promote it so that we can sell it. If not, then we need to use it for some purposes that might be coming up, whether it's to put a rec center over there or whether it's to use it for county offices. But something needs to be done on it than just sit there.
Mr. Turner?
Well, we have a contract on the property, and it was not sold because of upset bid was allowed, and that should never have happened. The property needs to be developed so that we can increase the tax base from businesses that we have coming in there. There needs to be a commitment to sell the property, and so far I haven't seen that commitment, simply because we've already turned down the contract. Thank you.
Mr. Welch?
Well, you know, the old high school is a unique property, and not only because I went to high school there, and so did many people in this room, including my mother, who probably killed me about saying that, but you know, it's roughly 72 acres, and about 36 acres of it can be developed. So you've got a lot of elevation changes, you've got a lot of steep slope issues, so it's not as easy a property to move. And as you can tell, if you've kept it up to date with the happenings of the old high school last few years. I don't know that we should paint ourselves in the corner at any point with this property. If we start, you know, a few months ago, we started looking at our space allocations throughout our county buildings. We're lacking a lot of space. The county keeps growing, yet our county government has stayed the same. And so we need to look at all of our options, selling it, developing it for county buildings, a rec center, or even just sitting on it for a possible new school that we were mentioning before, as in Hardin Park. I don't think anything should be off the table, but we should really work heavily on all of these options.
Mr. Yates?
Trust me, we've been trying to sell it for 4 years, and we had offers, we had restrictions put on the property, and one offer was withdrawn. I think it was for $19 million, and we haven't had a good, sound, written offer contract on it for over $14 million in 4 years. I think we need to sell it. I think we need to use it to develop, to increase our tax base, and that will increase the revenues for the town and the county. I think we need to work with the town and try to work something out to try to sell it. You look at this, and how many people, when you come to pay taxes up here, have a hard time finding a place to park? How many people, when you come to serve on jury duty, you have to walk a quarter of a mile in the rain? I think a good use of it, if we can't sell it, would be to put a county seat up there. I think we've got plenty of parking. I think we've got a lot of things to do. We just centralize all the county offices, all the court system, and update it, and then sell this property. There's many, many things you can do, but it's the people's property, it's the county's property, and if we can't sell it, we need to use it for the benefit of the citizens.
Ms. Lawrence?
Well, I've heard some really good options, but I haven't seen anything happening with that property. I have wondered if it would be possible to split it. The last I heard, the cost was $40 million, is that right? Which is a lot for any developer. On the other hand, the county's survey said that that was the most, and this was several years ago, logical place for a business that it could later in Boone, I mean in Watauga. It's not doing the county any good just sitting there. I think it's time to move and do something with it. And I don't have the right answer, but there are certainly some good solutions here. It's time to do something.
Mr. Bliss?
John mentioned it's 75 acres and roughly 35 to 40 is buildable. We had a $19.1 million offer on this property a few years ago. It appraised around $16 million. I was thrilled with that. And then the town, right in the middle, midstream, changed a couple rules and made it basically worthless to that person. So yes, I think Elizabeth mentioned about working with the town. I think you have a new town manager on board who would like to sell it also and get it back on the tax rolls. You've got to understand that it was off the tax rolls for years because it was a high school. So it's not hurting us in that respect that nothing's been built on it yet. But we've been meeting with some people that have made an interest in it, but it's still not where I think it should be. But we've looked at putting county offices up there. We've looked at, we talked about a business park, but we're not in a giant hurry. I'd like to sell it because we do have a lot of needs coming up, but I want it to be at the right price and the right value for what it is.
We've heard some comments about economic development tonight, and we've also heard some comments about environment. Air quality is a concern in light of the controversial asphalt plant. How do you balance environmental concerns with economic development? Mr. Turnbull?
Well, one of the things that you do is you don't invite a really bad neighbor that we already have back in the county to be a really bad neighbor in another part of the county. The second thing you do is the ordinances that you have in place, you honor those ordinances, and that was not done by the Board of Adjustments in allowing another asphalt plant to be built on the city bottom. There are mandates from the state on industries and what they're permitted as far as their air quality output. The asphalt plant on the scenic byway has a 500-ton a year pollution output permit. It's not good for the citizens of the county. It's not good for the economy of the county since we're tourism based, and it's also not in compliance with the ordinances that we have.
Mr. Welch?
I think here in Watauga County, we have to balance our environment and economic development every day. And a lot of growth in economic development up here is due to our environment, our natural resources. I think when we look at our area, we do not want to invite another asphalt or two asphalt plants into this county. We kind of hear talk of one, but there were two applications that were within the new river, within a close proximity to the New River, 2 elementary schools, actually 3 elementary schools. So I think, we weigh heavily on the types of economic development we want to attract. And our environment, our natural resources, naturally are big draws for a lot of the businesses that are here and that will come here. Now, you'll probably hear that we could have sent it to the Board of Adjustment or to the County Commission to appeal, but we would be in the same place in Superior Court. That's why I voted against the asphalt plant here in Watauga County, to protect our environment and what we treasure.
We couldn't have voted for the asphalt plant. All we could do was vote to appeal the asphalt plant because on February 18, 2014, that power was given to the Board of Adjustments, which I disagree with vehemently because I think that power should lay in the hand of your elected officials. So when you're not pleased with what we do, then you have a chance to put us out. You can't put a board out. No appointed board should have that kind of power. We lost that vote 3-2. I think that we worked, I enjoyed working on the new HILU. That was, for me, it was applied for under the old HILU. We have a signed off document from our planning director on March the 31st, 2015, that they had met all the ordinances. And if you want a copy, I'll be happy to provide you one. But in a new HILU that we have now, the asphalt plant could not even be applied for. We made a lot of changes. We do have a lot of work to do, and we're going to do it. But we've got to, you can't stop midstream if somebody's invested and let them back up.
Ms. Blank?
I can't think of an issue that's upset so many people recently. We don't need that asphalt plant in Watauga County. We didn't need it when it came up before the commission. And they knew that. How do you balance the environment and business? Well, you work to attract the right kind of business. You market to a specific kind of business, but it's not heavy industry. This is not an appropriate place for it. Up here, to a great extent, our faces are a fortune. I mean, our wonderful environment, our clean air, our clean water are strong assets for Watauga County, and I don't think we should waste them or damage them. They're too valuable to us. It also helps us attract tourists, which are a major industry here too.
Mr. Blunt?
That's it.
By law, you have to allow a place for business to come to your county. You curtail that by having a high-impact land ordinance. And they applied for that permit in 2011. 5-member Board of Adjustment, made up of Democrats and Republicans, voted after 10 days of testimony that they met all the requirements of that. Now, I can't, as a commissioner, vote yes or no on that. Do I think we needed another asphalt plant? No. But I don't vote on emotion, I vote on facts and law. I heard that testimony, and there were 4 key points. They met all of those. There were no errors in the law, that the lawyers signed off on it. It has been appealed. The county did not appeal it. We voted not to appeal it. I think they met the requirements. I think they proved that. Now, it has been appealed. What is the difference in us appealing it or someone else appealing it? It's appealed. Now, the county's not spending that money. I mean, we could have spent another $500,000 to $1 million if it kept going. I wasn't going to do that. We spent $130,000 trying to fight this and also making a much tougher high-impact land ordinance. But again, you've got to provide places for business to come in. You can't just say no, because it could make your whole high-impact land ordinance null and void. That's happened before, so that's what that is.
Mr.
I think the balancing act for air quality and economic development is a tough one, but I think it's one that we achieve. When people come to Watauga County, they come and they say, how can I get back there? Whether it's to visit again, or whether it's to retire, or whether it's to come and live. With that balancing act, I think that we can encourage businesses to come, and when they come, we develop where they have green spaces and stuff, but I think it is our duty to protect the areas that are around us in this great environment. We have a wonderful county, and it's beautiful, and I think that we need to respect that and honor that, and I think it can be done.
Staying with the economic development, the EDC is limited in attracting new large-scale employers because we don't have available usable land or facilities to bring in new businesses. We did build a business park 25 to 30 years ago that's full, and they're environmentally friendly businesses that are there. So the question is, what should be done to develop a new business park? And the question goes to Mr. Well.
Well, I think what we all said earlier, take a look at the land that we currently have. We have, again, 35, 36 acres that are developable and possibly need be. I voted against the proposal to purchase the property out 194 for what was at the time a proposed business park. it just did not make any sense to me, having a business park all the way out 194 on a windy 2-lane road. Now, if we're going to look at building a business park and attracting businesses, we need to do it strategically and with a little bit of intelligence and trying to figure out what we're going to bring in and what we need to provide to bring those businesses in. I don't think too many folks would want to drive out 194 to deliver goods and services out in a business park out there. We need to look at some land on our major corridors. We need to look at the land that we already have. I'm not opposed to looking at the business park, but I am opposed to putting a business park in an unsuitable location.
Mr. Yates?
I'm on the EDC, and we are having problems recruiting businesses because we don't have any inventory. But I also look around and I see empty spaces within inside the town with large commercial spaces on the bottom of these multi-family things that are being built here in town. And, you know, maybe we need to offer some kind of incentive and for small businesses to come and use the things that are built now. If you look, probably 50 to 60% of these commercial spaces are empty. I admit the 2-lane highway wasn't good, but when you can buy 200 acres at $8,000 an acre, and Green Valley needs a school, and we just paid $80,000 an acre for the high school property, and we could have used 40 acres of it that was environmentally for the horticultural program at ASU in Watauga. We could have had enough property left to have sold what was left if we didn't develop the business park and paid. We could have had free land for the school and everything, but at $8,000 an acre in a school in Green Valley that's landlocked, I think you have to look at those options. And I don't want the county to be in the land business, but with 2 artesian wells out there and other things that were available, maybe we could have gotten some state help to put a road out there. I know we talked to natural gas people. I voted for that, and I would vote for it again.
Ms. Blanks?
I didn't hear anything during the dialogue about enlarging Green Valley School or anything. What I heard was business park, which is quite frankly one nearly in Ashe County. Yes, we do need some way to foster new environmentally friendly business and industry in here. And I think we've got to throw out the welcome mat. And yeah, I do think it needs to be in an accessible, sensible location. It's a good investment for the county, both in tax base. You know, if it doesn't fly, land is not losing its value here. It's not like we'd be losing money. But I have a house out on 194, and it's very hard to get out there in the winter. So I would like to see it in a sensible location.
Mr. Gillespie?
The topography of Watauga County makes it very difficult, as everyone in here knows, to have certain businesses come in here. Tourism's huge here, no question about it. But if you're going to do a business park, it needs to be in the right place at the right price. And here, the county is going to be responsible for buying the land. Are we going to be responsible for putting water and sewer out there, natural gas? I don't want to spend $8, $9, $10 million and you'll never get your return back with how much the jobs cost. So it's got to be in the right place, right price. But yeah, Perry's right. There's so many businesses in Watauga County and in the town of Boone sitting there vacant. I mean, just drive out 105 and look at all the vacant buildings out there. So, you know, working with the town again, it would be great to maybe take some of the places where there are retail space, they're sitting there and doing something with that also. But yeah, you've got to be cautious to get the right businesses in here, and again, you're limited because the cost of dirt at that time it's just ridiculous how much things cost. So it's not as easy as everyone thinks it is, but we got an EDC that's always chugging away at it.
Ms. Shurkis?
I agree. It was a shame that we weren't able to buy that property out on 194 for as cheap as it was. Everyone knows that land up here is very expensive. I do think that working with the EDC and the chamber and even realtors, the TDA, and coming up with some kind of marketing plan to see how we want to move forward is advantageous. I think that the industrial park served well for us, and if that's something in that same vicinity or that same idea would work well, then it's something that definitely needs to be addressed.
Mr. Turner?
The last business park that we built, we had musical chairs where we had a good number of businesses that were already in existence here. Simply moved to what was new and shiny. I don't think building something else that's new and shiny and having businesses relocate is going to get our money back. I don't think it's good money management or business management. It's already been pointed out, we have a great deal of commercial property in town and in the county right now that's empty. I would prefer not getting the county in the business of competing against other developers and other businesses. I would rather do marketing and encourage those developers to build what's needed. Not building up a business.
Mr. Yates, you will get this next question. What should Watauga County do about a new recreation center?
I'm for a recreation center, and a lot of people say, well, we had the Y. Well, the Y came up here and did a study, if you remember, and they told us they didn't get enough support to build the building. There wasn't enough support for it, and they withdrew their proposal. We do need a rec center. A rec center can do a lot of things economically for us. It can bring rooms, food, revenue to our high country by millions of dollars. We traveled, my children and I did, off the mountain to Johnson City and buy a room. We need a rec center, but most of all, and I've been asking for this for 3 years, we've got 4 years, we've got to stop throwing money at the pool. We lost $3.8 million in 11 years. We need to build a pool so our kids, we're talking about putting our kids first. We haven't ever had a swim meet up here because we don't have a competition pool. 40 years of a swim team and we can't have a home meet. Let's take this recreation center, let's put it in front of the people. It's the people's money, let's let them pay for it. Don't hijack how we're going to pay for it. I'm not for land increase. I think the sales tax increase is the way to pay for it, but it needs to be put in front of the people to say yes or no, it's their money.
Ms. Flanks?
I really want the rec center. I've got 2 little bitty grandsons, and when they've outgrown the playgrounds, I'd like to have them have some positive options and not sit there in front of playing computer games all day. And I'd like that for this county's children. We have really bad winters sometimes, and a lot of kids stuck indoors, and they need something positive to do. So I like a sales tax because it spreads the expense around. That means the tourists who come into town and the college students will help pay for it. It could be a partnership. We could go for grant funding. What we need to do is start doing it because I think there's been a building need for it and a building desire for years. And Kevin knows the pool needs replacing. It's shabby. So let's go ahead and do it one way or another.
Mr. Bluff?
Very much I'm in favor of a rec center, but as Perry mentioned, I think, or one of them down here mentioned that, yeah, put it before the citizens. I mean, you're talking $35 billion or maybe even more. Let them vote on a sales tax referendum. If it fails, then you start with a pool. That's what I always have said. The pool is terrible. We've talked for 2 or 3 years about just shutting the pool down and let's start saving that money and putting it aside. I know we built a few years ago, built a new sheriff's department up here and did not go into debt to do it. So even if you have to go into a small amount of debt, we've worked the last 4 years to bring the debt down considerably. We're in good shape right now, good financial shape in this county because of that. But yeah, let the citizens vote on a rec center, and this county does need it, in my opinion.
Shoot.
I'm definitely in favor of a rec center. I think it would be very advantageous for businesses, children, seniors, and everybody in between. The question is, how do you pay for it? I definitely think that the citizens elect officials so that we can be good stewards of your money, and that would involve a sales tax referendum. I'm grateful for Dr. St. Clair and the High Country Recreation and all the work that they put into it. And I think it's time that we actually do something about it, and that would be to build it. We just don't know how to pay for it, and that would be up to the citizens to vote on that.
Mr. Turner?
A couple of decades ago, when we built the pool, there was a plan in place to develop a large recreation. It was going to be done in phases. And what we have are temporary buildings sitting on that property now. It was never developed because there was no plan to do it. What we need to do is come up with a plan, as we've done with things like Brookshire, look at private-public partnerships, get as much money from grant money and private partnerships as we can, and go ahead and build a recreation center. I'm not in favor at all of just building a pool, because if we just build a pool, it'll be sitting there in another 2 or 3 decades with a bunch of metal buildings. We need to build a rec center.
Mr. Welch?
Well, it sounds like we're getting a rec center in December, you know? Which is great, because we have literally talked about a rec center for decades. The pool was built in the early 70s. It was covered as an outdoor pool. It was covered in the mid-70s. And it is as it was before in our capital improvement plan for the county. To just bring up this pool up to code would cost the county $1.1 million. Okay. So I sit on 2 boards, the Recreation Commission and the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, that have both unanimously approved a resolution to ask the county for a rec center. And why is that? It's not necessarily a rec center, it's more a community center. You have resources that everybody in this county can take advantage of. And, you know, the time for talk is over. It's time to actually move on this. If we all here agree it's going to be a benefit to this county, it is time to move on it. And I really appreciate the High Country Recreation, Parks and Recreation, and the school system and the hospital who are in favor of this as well.
All right.